There's so many great musicians in Buffalo, I mean, it's been like that forever. But I mean, I just feel fortunate that I'm able to play with these people and be inspired by them and have them play with me so that I can continue to improve and continue to find like my voice, search inside and find the things that I want to say with music,
Hey there, music lovers. Welcome to Why Music Matters, a podcast where we examine the power and influence that music can wield in our lives. I'm your host, musician and music journalist Jeff Miers. On today's episode, I'm joined by drummer, composer, and educator John Bacon Jr. For several decades, John has been an artist operating at the center of the region's jazz and new music scenes. Throughout that time, he's also been heavily involved in music academia, teaching percussion and jazz at Villa Maria College, the University of Buffalo, and SUNY Fredonia, and maintaining a roster of private drum students. John is a drummer of great focus, virtuosity, and intent. He can also swing like nobody's business. For his latest venture, John and his Star People ensemble will be joining creative forces with the John Laird Dance Company for Legacy in Motion, Miles Davis at 100, a program combining jazz and dance in celebration of Miles' 100th anniversary. The show takes place at Art Park in Lewiston, New York on July 17th. Welcome to Why Music Matters, John Bacon. Hey everybody, welcome to Why Music Matters. I'm your host, Jeff Miers. Happy to be here today with a musician I've admired for a long time, my friend John Bacon, drummer, composer, educator, band leader. Am I missing anything?
Father, grandfather.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are the big gigs. I was talking about the secondary thing. Father, grandfather, musician. I'm
friend of Jeff Miers.
Oh yeah, I mean that's got to go at the top of the resume. So now that we've established your credentials, friend of Jeff Miers, woo! John, I'm happy. I mean, we've had many conversations about music over the years. It's nice to get one on tape.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, Miles Davis, 100th anniversary year, and great excuse to talk about this music. The show at Art Park on July 17th. I almost said 27th. July 17th. Legacy in Motion, Miles Davis at 100. I really want to dig into that a little bit more because this is a really creative idea that marries improvisation with movement and dance. John Laird Dance Company. And also, last night we were together at a show I was able to be a part of through the Sportsman's Americana Music Foundation. And we watched the great drummer Lenny White in an ensemble that he really just kind of joined. And it was just really cool. And all these things all these roads lead back to Miles, it feels like, in some way. But let's talk about Miles' 100th, just in general. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but let's talk about it again because it's still cool. What does that music mean to you? I know it's hard because there's probably 5 distinct periods of it. But what does Miles mean to you, and what is the most influential period of his work for you?
Oh, wow. Well, it's probably easier to answer what it means to me than what the most influential is, just because, as we know, he covered a lot of ground with his music, and like all of it that I've listened to has been impactful to me. I mean, maybe that 60s quintet with Wayne Shorter,
Second grade,
Tony Williams, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, for a couple of reasons. Probably first because that was the first music of Miles that I was totally aware of and kind of sought out on my own to become close to. I might have told you this before, but I had gotten a subscription to Downbeat magazine, and my mother bought it for me. She's always been so supportive of my music, and when it came, Tony Williams was on the cover. And I remember it was ripped, and I was kind of mad about that.
Send me a new one. Totally.
But I read the article, and I had no idea of the sound. A similar thing happened to me with The Who, where I read a book about The Who, and I had no idea about the sound.
Never really heard it?
But I didn't hear them, and then I sought out the sound. And the same thing happened with Tony, and I was into buying records, at the mall, but I would often buy the records based on the cover because you didn't have anything else. You couldn't listen to them unless you went in there knowing, oh, this is the music I'm looking for, which it never was at that age. This is pre-high school. And so I'm going into the Cabbages and with whatever, $10, and I'm looking through every record, and I cannot find a record that I want to buy that has Tony Williams on it. I was looking for a Miles Davis record. And at that time, they weren't printing the names on the backs of the records.
Could be real. It's still kind of tricky to figure out the credits on a lot of it.
Exactly. And then we went to Boston with the jazz ensemble from high school, and there was a music store near Berkeley, a record store, and I went in and I found a Miles record with Tony's name on it, and I bought it. It was Water Babies, which was a perfect one to buy because half of it is from Nefertiti. Yeah. It's like outtakes from Nefertiti, and the other half is outtakes from In a Silent Way.
It's perfect.
So it was perfect. And
a lot of cymbal work.
And in fact, people always talk about the Nefertiti ride cymbal, and I always say, man, you got to listen to Water Babies because it's the same ride cymbal, and right off the bat, he plays almost only ride cymbal. So that was very influential to me, maybe to a detriment, because a lot of people that music is still, in a sense, ahead of its time. Yeah. I mean, maybe some of Wynton's bands and kind of the offshoot of that from a certain period approached certain aspects of it, but not really. Maybe we get to almost Wayne Shorter's band with Danilo and Brian Blade and Patitucci before they get to somebody dealing with what they were really dealing with at that point. And when I was coming up in the beginning, there was nobody on the scene here that was thinking about that, at least not presenting it. People were definitely
you living in Kenmore?
Tonawanda. Yeah. So, and my access was limited. I'm sure there were cats on the Buffalo scene, but, it was like I didn't have access to that. So it was very, people wanted to hear, a straight ahead swing beat and hi-hat on 2 and 4. And it took me a long time to realize that because I was so into that sound of that 60s band, But then I also I had gotten a lot of records and tapes from a musician that I worked a lot with very early when I was in high school, Dave Alderson. He had a group called Dinosaur. It was a trio with Greg Piontek. It was a total freewheeling. Like
was such a
the
great
first
bass
gig
player.
We just played I don't know if we ever had a rehearsal. We just would play. Dave did write some tunes, but and he would feed me a lot of music. Art Ensemble of Chicago, Barry Altschul, Pig Bag.
This outside stuff?
All outside stuff. But he also turned me on to like some straight ahead, like late 50s Miles. And then that became a revelation.
So Coltrane era.
Yeah. Well, even maybe even before that, really, maybe even mid-50s. Now that I think
like
about
Prestige,
it. When Lights
records.
Are Low. And those whatever that was. And then another musician that I met who was kind of avant-garde on a wedding band gig said, "Hey man, have you ever checked out Bitches Brew?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know what that is." So I checked that out, and it was like that was one of those "what is this?" moments, you know. And I always try to communicate to students about the difference about that time when we didn't have access to YouTube and all the resources for, finding out about music or whatever you were interested in. And so you would go and you'd spend that $10 on that record, and then you got it home and you'd be like, "What is this? I bought it because of the cover."
Right. Now I'm going to find a way to dig into this because I spent the money.
Exactly. I got 10 records, you know. Chicory is the Leprechaun is one of them. And I'm going like, what is this music?
What did I buy?
You know? And then you listen to it and you listen to it and you listen to it until you go, I hear it now.
Yeah.
You know? And so that was...
I think that's significant. And also in this sort of obviously pre-YouTube, pre any opportunity to really find out other than taking a chance was mentors, or even teachers. Like for me, I was in 3rd grade, My parents had a few albums when I was growing up, and they were really good ones. One of them was Miles' Greatest Hits, right, on Columbia. Starts with 7 Steps to Heaven, but, it's a compendium. So it was all over the place. I didn't understand that when I'm 4, But I thought the cover was cool. He looked intense, and I loved the music. And then the Beatles, and I was totally into that. Paul Simon, Simon and Garfunkel, all that stuff. My parents played. But a teacher in 3rd grade, we had a music class, and I remember distinctly she brought in 2 albums. One of them was Tommy by The Who.
Wow.
And the other was Bitches Brew.
Oh my gosh.
And seems radical to me now, but
yeah,
we passed around the cover. We all got to look at it. And I was fascinated. I had no idea what this music was.
Wow.
But it was compelling.
Yeah.
And kind of frightening, And I'm thankful to her. I don't think it was part of any curriculum. She was just like, check this shit out,
I'm going to turn these kids on to
little
these
punks.
Yeah, that's wild.
Isn't it cool?
It's such a...
I was in rural, small-town Massachusetts at the time where I grew up, And it's just... I think of it all the time because I think, music mentorship is so huge. And it can just be a little thing. I didn't mean to sidetrack there.
No, I think it's relevant because your question was what influenced, and that's the way we get influences through, like I said, Dave Alderson, or even more obliquely, my mother giving me $10 and saying go to the Cabbages. I'm going to look around and
pick something
J.C. Penney's, and
you were psyched.
Yeah,
Woo.
Yeah. So, but I guess. With regard to this project, since it's kind of part of what we're talking about here, it's been interesting. I just talked to John Lehrer this morning, just trying to, because it's a remote collaboration, and it's we've never worked together before, and it's a jazz oriented collaboration, which means not only musically, but I feel like the interaction, the idea of not totally being set in stone, that there's areas that are going to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that the work we do together the week of the performance, which is when that's when we're going to get together. We have 3 rehearsals. That's going to be where we really put it together, but we're trying to get as far as we can with this remote
through
part of it.
Discussing it, right?
Discussing it, like what do we got here? So we have things from a wide spectrum of his music, Kind of Blue, Tutu, Amandla.
Oh wow, you picked a track from that?
What's that?
From a Mandala?
Yeah.
I think that record is very overlooked.
Oh, it's a great record. Yeah, JoJo we're going to do.
Oh, I love that song.
Which is a cool
So
tune. We're going to do In a Silent Way, which is, we're feeling like that's a centerpiece of the whole thing because it like Star People has been playing an arrangement of that where we do, In a Silent Way, it's about that time, In a Silent Way, the kind of the trilogy thing that they do on the recording. And John heard that. I said, hey, I think this would be good. And he was like, oh my gosh, this will be great. So we're really looking for that to be something special. It always really connects with the audience. It's so evocative.
That's the word.
It takes you on this journey. So there's that. And then also things like Dr. Jekyll from Milestones and Milestones itself.
Excellent.
And the old Milestones. And I'm giving away all the repertoire, but that's okay.
Oh, but you still don't know what it's going to sound like unless you're there.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of jazz. So, wow, that's an ambitious overview. And I love that the In a Silent Way kind of suite, I guess. It's not a suite. It's just...
It is in a way. It feels like it.
It does feel like it, right? It's such a great example of, in my opinion, Miles' gifts as an arranger, even though I think that a lot of that had to do with John McLaughlin at that particular time. Really, Miles' ability to pick the right people and then edit things down to. Are you familiar with the tune as Joe Zawinul has done it elsewhere? Like the way he actually wrote it?
Yeah.
A lot more chords.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just E,
Right.
But there's something about that arrangement. Like he found something, and he did this all the time. He just heard something in there that I think most people wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And pared it down to, it's like you dug away and like, oh, here's a gem at the heart of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that was an aesthetic that he was working towards at that time. He followed Bird and Dizzy around New York during the bebop era, and
trying to hang and barely making it.
Yeah, and I mean, it takes a strong personality to say, I need to not go that direction. Like those two already got it covered.
It's covered.
And there's this flock around them. And, so I'm going to have to do, and that was really something that he mined throughout his career was the contrast.
Yeah.
He pitted himself against Cannonball and Coltrane, and he looked for ways to, it's more subtle in that 60s group with him and Wayne, because I feel like you could misconstrue how alike they are. Yeah. And in some ways they really are, but there's also another aspect to it that I think Miles understood. But anyway, getting back to the In the Silent Way thing, I read something recently about that and about how Miles had called everybody together for this session, and nobody knew what they were going to do. And he contacted McLaughlin, I think on the basis of the fact that Tony had just brought him over from England and was going to use him in his band. And at that point, Tony wasn't in the band anymore. Jack DeJohnette and Chick Corea were in the band.
It's such a weird timeline.
But he brought Tony back, and you can kind of hear the apprehensiveness in Tony, like maybe he wasn't totally into the session, like because he doesn't really do a lot,
It's so sparse.
Yeah. But anyway, the real gist of what I was getting to was that he gave that melody to the band. I guess Zawinul brought it in, and he told McLaughlin to play it like he doesn't know how to play the guitar. And I think Miles was as you get towards that idea of arranging or of bringing people together, that's kind of a tone that you can really kind of grab onto with him, is that he came up with things to say to people. Because I know as a leader, that's a really difficult thing, and I know sometimes I'm not the best at it. You can say the wrong thing and somebody gets self-conscious or whatever, you know what I mean? Or they get mad at you because you were critical. But Miles had a way of saying something that, like, another thing I read recently, he said to Billy Hart. I think it's actually in Billy Hart's book Oceans of Time, which is amazing book.
Totally.
And he said to Billy, it was on the Bitches Brew session, which there's a couple of great things about the drumming on that session that have come through. But anyway, he said to Billy Hart, he said, they were playing, and he walked over to Billy and whispered in his ear, and he said, "That ain't it."
Mid-take.
That ain't it.
I would have been in the cab in 2 seconds. Can you imagine?
Then he walked away, and he came back later and said something to the effect of, "Do you know how to play any James Brown beats?" Now Billy was even more confused. And then he came back a third time, and he said, "Oh, fuck it. Just play whatever you want." You know? Incredible. So you get those 3 ideas in your head. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden,
very different ideas too.
Yeah, all of a sudden, there's going to be some swimming going around.
There is.
So yeah,
I think that's like absolutely brilliant in a way, manipulation of someone.
It is.
Maybe it's a little bit evil. I don't know, but
yeah,
you get a result.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the I think they called the Master Takes. It's a CD that came out with all of the material, because he was known for going in and just leaving the tape running.
Oh yeah.
And they took that and they basically have given you the in between and the previous, like, you know.
Are you talking about Bitches Brew specifically?
Most of what I've heard has been from the '60s group, and it was like them essentially rehearsing in the studio, like going through Nefertiti and Freedom Jazz Dance.
That one I know. There's a lot of dialogue in that.
Yeah, they're trying to get Ron Carter to do a specific bass figure, and Ron's not getting it. It's not working. You hear like a very young Herbie Hancock trying to, coach Ron on it, and
I know, he sounds like a kid.
He sounds like a kid. The one point he says to Tony, he says, "Tony, can you use some temple blocks?" You think about temple blocks in that '60s Miles quintet. Like, where would that even fit?
How did you think of that?
Yeah, but then actually I think it's either on Tutu or JoJo, there are temple blocks.
Yeah, I think it's JoJo. Yeah,
just a little bit.
So he kept that idea.
He kept trying to find a place. He also said to Tony, "Tony, can you play some of those triplets like Elvin?" And Tony goes, "I can't play triplets like Elvin, Miles." He sounds like a little kid.
I mean, how old was he?
He was 17.
It's crazy.
But those were the kinds of, I guess, those little things, more so than the grandiose arrangements of Gil Evans or the real kind of concise and poetic compositions of Wayne Shorter. Miles was more into saying something that would get those musicians to improvise a certain way, which is a great thing to keep in mind.
It's amazing. So as a band leader and composer yourself, I mean, how is that translated for you? Like you mentioned a little bit, like sometimes like, you want to tread lightly when you're working with other musicians that you respect, or they wouldn't
Sometimes
be there.
I get a little intense, I think, because I'm very much...
Because you care?
Yeah, because I care, and I'm also... I hear something in particular, and so on reflection, it's often more of a, I like to record rehearsals. I'm very into that, and performances. So I very much listen back and reflect on things that have happened. I think to me, that's one of the most useful tools that a musician can have. I try to really encourage my students to do that, like record everything that you do, because it's going to be painful sometimes, but that pain is telling you exactly what you need to do. When you hear those mistakes and you go, that tells you what you need to do. You know, you can't shy away from your weaknesses.
No.
You have to embrace them and improve them.
It's a huge lesson, because I record a lot of, almost everything I do if I have the opportunity.
Yeah.
And there are cringe moments still, 45 years into doing this stuff.
Always.
What
every
are you
single
doing?
time.
But you got to face it.
It's a lesson every time. I mean, that really hit me big time when I was teaching in Cleveland. This would have been in the late 90s. Mid to late 90s, I was teaching in Cleveland with Ernie Krivd, a great program there at Tri-C Metro. It was a 2-year school, but they had a great jazz program, and the faculty were all really great jazz players. And in fact, I just heard Marion Hayden on an NPR, I can't remember what it was, but Marion was a bass player. She's from Detroit. It was about the scene in Detroit. It was about Motown. And Marion was talking about how all the Detroit musicians have to know Motown.
Yeah.
It's like you just got to know it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Marion was in that band, and I was driving back and forth, and 3 hours there, 3 hours back, and at the time I had a mini disc recorder. This was the days of mini disc.
I remember them well.
I would record the because they were into a certain sound. They were into like this kind of swing sound. It was like the time of Big Voodoo Daddy and Brian Setzer's.
Yeah. The neo swing revival or whatever.
Swing revival, and Ernie was trying to tap into that, but do it from a jazz perspective, and so there was requirements. I had to be doing something specific, so I was listening to a lot of that music on the way there, but on the way back, I would listen to the rehearsal that I had recorded on mini disc, 3 hours, and I would listen to the whole rehearsal, and then I would go back into the parts that I really needed to focus on, and that was like. It taught me not only what I needed to do on that gig, but how important that listening to yourself and accepting yourself is to improvement. You're not gonna improve if you just keep saying, "Oh yeah, this is cool. Yeah, this is cool." It isn't gonna work because there's always something that needs to be improved. There's always something. Come on,
everyone.
Like Bobby Jones says, I'm looking for 51%, man.
Yeah.
51%, just better than half, And if you keep moving that bar, okay, you're getting somewhere.
You're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Or, and to me, it's like I better be better than I was a year ago.
Yeah.
Better is a pretty nebulous term and it's subjective, but
exactly.
Moving.
But what
evolving.
Better is. We know what better is for ourselves.
For ourselves, that's true.
If we really examine,
Yeah.
And that's healthy.
I think I agree. What about in terms of that was a great answer and really interesting. In terms of, the way you arrange things. Like let's talk about the Miles 100 Legacy Emotion gig. As an example, you're taking this material and you're doing arrangements. What have you learned about? And I guess from Miles primarily, but it's everywhere. The significance of leaving space, and obviously dynamic range, which you've always had in your playing. But I mean, the more we play, I think the more that becomes apparent how significant it is.
Well, I mean, so there's a couple of things. First of all, the arrangements, we had pre-existing arrangements of basically everything. And
for star people, like from your book.
For star people,
yeah.
We mainly chose tunes that were pre-existing arrangements. And they were done by various members of the band. Bobby Militello did some, George, myself. I think that's primarily it. And some of them are just like tunes that everybody, like all blues.
Sure.
You got to know all blues, So there's that. And then there's the way that's going to interact with the dance, which, I think today, like I said, I talked to John this morning, and I feel like we had a really productive conversation, because it was at the point where I was saying, what can we, how is this resonating with you? How are you reacting to this music? And he was giving me ideas about what things he could really feel he could choreograph to, and what things were less, impactful to him, and that he was unsure about how he was gonna, if he could approach it. And he was saying, I think I'll just let you guys play that one, So there's that. There's those two kind of things resonating together, of the existing music and what is really gonna be danceable, in a sense. And then I think on a greater level, like overarching, is the idea that I think that the vast majority of listeners, and this isn't to, denigrate anybody's listening ability, but, as musicians, we listen in such intensely microscopic ways.
Yes.
Like that Lenny White thing last night, where I said, well, I'm not so sure that they had a lot of rehearsal on this. But that didn't affect my enjoyment of, first of all, seeing them get through the music when they were unsure of it. I liked seeing that.
It's exciting.
It was. It's like, okay, they don't really know this. One point the bass player and Rachel were not together, and his face was so obvious,
Yeah.
And I'm like,
not the good kind of stank face.
Where is this gonna go? Where is this headed next? So for me, I'm looking inside of this as it's dramatic, and also just looking, when I was, 8, 9 years old or whatever, Lenny White just blew my mind with those tom fills and the way that he hit the cymbals and things. Well, there was none of that in this music that we saw last night.
No.
But there was that touch that he had. And so I was identifying with that. Now, those are probably things that the average listener is not going to, relate to, or really
Probably
getting into
not.
listening to the structure of the tune,
right,
or any of that.
They're kind of, maybe, this is a generalization, always dangerous, but maybe letting it wash over them and catching a vibe, a mood, a feeling.
It's like, I think
that's beautiful too.
Yeah, I think Frank Zappa said that the thing that most listeners hear in the music is the texture.
Yeah.
And that's why he could record records that would sound like 50s doo-wop, and then put them next to something that sounded like jazz fusion.
Totally.
Because he was dealing in the very large picture. He was also down there in the nitty-gritty, the microscopic, but he understood that the average listener is going to hear the big picture. And so you got to present variations in the big texture, the big picture. If you don't do that, you're going to lose them. If you come out and every tune goes head, trumpet solo, sax solo, piano solo, maybe a bass solo, we'll get to the drum solo next tune, or maybe not. That's like, it's going to get boring real quick. So you got to deal with tempo, dynamics, variations in texture. And so that's a big part of how I will approach this thing, is that, and I feel like those are things that make the music more danceable. They give the dancers more options to work with a different sound world, Oh,
I love that idea. Are there examples that you're aware of jazz and dance? Like, are there things I'm missing? But
yeah, I mean, I wish I was more of a scholar on that. I'm sorry to say that I'm not. But definitely there is, and I'm embarrassing myself.
No, not at all.
By not being able to,
because I couldn't name one.
Well, there's quite a few. I think Martha Graham maybe did some things. I know George and I discussed this. George Caldwell and I discussed this. I remember seeing a video with an African American guy who was really dancing a lot with some jazz, and I can't remember his name. I feel like maybe he died of AIDS. I can't remember who.
Gregory Hines.
No, but there you go. There's, of course, that. There's the tap element, right? Yeah. Boy,
he was
you
amazing.
really okay.
I'm sorry.
I sounded really smart up until now, Jeff.
You still sound smart. All right, we'll edit it out, John.
No, that's
kidding.
okay. But
whose idea was? How did this idea? How was it born?
Well, it came through Dave.
Dave Wiedekind.
Dave Wiedekind from Art Park. I've been doing a thing yearly at Art Park for a bunch of years now.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how many years. And then the last one that we did, it was a couple years ago. It was outdoors, and usually we were doing something outdoors on that stage.
On the terrace.
Yeah, not on the terrace, but on that wooden stage, and they've got those wooden sculptures.
Yeah.
And so we did a thing. I think we did a thing with the Buffalo Jazz Composers Workshop,
Kelly.
which is a great group that I'm involved in. And, Dave loved it. And he was like, next time let's do something. Let's collaborate. Let's do something more collaborative. And I was like, sure. And I don't know if I said at the time, but that group had done previously some collaborations. When I did those different festivals, I did 2 festivals. One was focused on Monk, I think Monk's 100th birthday, and the other was 1968. And we had collaborated with poets and wrote all this music with poets, with David Landry's friends.
So cool.
And that came out really good. So we were always kind of thinking another collaboration would be a great thing. And I just thought dance, because, as a percussionist, we've done dance, like Maelstrom had done dance things, and just playing with dance in various situations. I've always loved, just dance and movement. So it seemed like an obvious thing. And so it was born out of that,
Yeah.
And then I guess Dave has done. He's worked with John in multiple capacities over the years. So so it's really great. I'm really excited to finally get with them and start actually doing it.
Yeah, right, in real time.
Yeah.
Moving from the conceptual into the actual.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see and hear how this plays out. It seems like I always, with Miles in particular, I always thought it was kind of body music too. Jazz isn't always thought of that way anymore. Yeah. Obviously, at the beginning, when it was swing, it was totally dance music.
Yeah.
And, maybe someone could argue against this idea that, like, In a Silent Way is danceable, but it sure sounds like it, free-form expression.
Yeah.
There's, like, sort of a languid vibe that you can just see dance really expressing, in this music. But then, if you're doing something like JoJo from Amandla, that is definitely danceable.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you mentioned earlier about the different eras of Miles, I mean, I think he was trying to be contemporary. He was trying to be relevant, and he was trying to stay relevant. And I think one of the ways that he was doing it was by staying contemporary, by trying to be aware of the music of the time. And, I don't know. I think you and I talked about this before, but if you think of, like they always say, Miles wanted to appeal to a younger crowd, and so then he put a rock beat behind everything. Well, yeah, but look at what he came up with.
Come on.
Some of the most avant-garde music in the history of jazz. So, I mean, he was never letting go of the adventurous spirit. He was just trying to marry it to some. And there's nothing else that sounds like that. I mean, you don't. He created a sound on Bitches Brew that is like, where else? The Grateful Dead didn't do that.
No.
Jimi Hendrix didn't do. They're great musicians with their own
they did amazing things.
Sound.
Yeah,
but they didn't do that. That was Miles Davis.
I still haven't heard anyone really do it.
No, you can't touch it. You can't touch it, and and then you get Tutu and Amandla and then the last one, doo-bop, or is it doo-bop? Is that what it's called?
Doo-bop was the hip hop one.
Yeah,
the very
that's
last
like the
thing.
last one.
Yeah,
right?
still, you know, at the end, till the end.
And in between there, he had Aura.
Yeah,
which is that big orchestral kind of sound.
That was recorded in Norway. What's the composer's name?
Mikkelberg, is that who it is?
That's who it is. Thank you. And McLaughlin again on that. I love that record. It's really interesting.
Well, and he was influenced at the same time by Karl-Heinz Stockhausen.
Yeah, definitely. I know like what became On the Corner.
Yeah,
started with some music, concrete, and a lot of different influences coming in, European stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
it's an interesting evolution of the music. That's for sure.
It really is, and it is funny that we have talked about this before, but yeah, Miles went rock, right? He totally sold out.
Yeah.
I don't know. We just 2 weeks ago now, I put something together to play On the Corner at the Sportsman's Tavern. Mm-hmm. Jacob J, Dalton Sharp, Damone Jackson, Dominic Masana. I don't want to leave anybody out, but amazing players, and it's weird. You can't really rehearse that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
For 15 minutes of E flat, 7 sharp 11 or whatever. But that music is fascinating, and comes a lot of it from the drumming, right? Which always seems to be almost a James Brown popcorn beat, but not quite. Mm-hmm. Everything feels like displaced, and I love that about it. Some of that maybe is T.O. Masiro's tape editing, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that exists now, and so you kind of try to inhabit that world, and it is a world.
I mean, all the musicians who were involved in that I've read their accounts of it, and they said, I don't remember that.
No.
That's not what we did.
Yeah, they jammed for a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's pieces.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they did a lot of manipulation of the tape, splicing, and imagine what they would have done today with the tools of today.
Crazy.
For that kind of idea. I mean, it could have just been.
You know what? The edits would be way cleaner, and I don't think I'd like it as much.
Yeah, you can hear the
There's
edits.
mistakes.
Yeah, there's definitely.
And they're just cool. I don't know. It's because we've been listening to it so long that way, but I like it. It's very human.
Well, I was trying to go back, and I just this past weekend, because I was thinking, John was so interested in a silent way thing. I was like, because it's narrative. It tells it's dramatic. It tells a story. And so that's one of the things, jazz so much of the time relies on telling the story through the improvisation.
Right.
And that's great. That's what the music is a lot of times. But for a dancer who's trying to choreograph something, you don't, the musician's thought today and the thought tomorrow, and it's going to be totally different. You can't rely on it. It's the beauty of the music is that spontaneity, but you can't necessarily rely on it. And in the choreography world, you need something to grab on.
Yes.
So I was thinking, well, geez, is there something with Bitches Brew that we could draw out? And I listened to the whole album like 2 or 3 times through, and I was like, nope. You know why? Because it was totally spontaneous.
It's totally spontaneous.
If you try to recreate that spontaneity,
it can't really be charted.
I mean, Bobby Previte has done it with his interpretation, and that's great.
But it is an interpretation.
It's an interpretation, and and he still has to rely. I'll tell you, we've done that, I think, 2 times now.
Yeah.
We did it a couple years ago.
With me.
And we did it many years ago.
Yeah. The one at the Trough.
Right.
Initially.
But prior to that, we did a gig, and this is what I think got him interested in doing it in Buffalo. He came to Buffalo, and I was playing a lot with Steve Bachkowski at the time, and we had this group of musicians who were working together on different things. And we did a gig one night at this skate park thing, this indoor half pipe that was across the street from the Colored Musicians Club. It was totally unlicensed. It was like just one of those crazy kids put this thing, and I was just like, okay, we're just gonna jam for a couple hours. Okay, cool. So, and Previte came too, and that was the shit right there. That was like Bitches Brew, but we didn't play Bitches Brew. There was no, use these ideas. There was none of that. It was just total free form.
Pure improv.
Pure improv in an electric context with a group of varied instruments where the rhythm section outnumbers the horns. That's a big part of it. That's a huge part of Bitches Brew, is that you only really have 2 horn players on that record.
That's true.
And you have 3 drummers, 3 piano players, guitar, 2 bass, percussion. The rhythms, it's a total flip-flop.
It is a total flip-flop. I guess I never really explicitly thought of that, but it's totally true.
It totally flips the whole thing. And, and that causes it then to be, and he does that with others. I mean, Nefertiti is a great example of that, where you flip-flop the roles, Instead of the rhythm section playing a continuous vibe through the whole tune and the horns playing variations, you have the horns playing the same thing through the whole tune and the rhythm section varying what they're doing. And so that was... Yeah, he was into turning things on their head.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that is never going to be dull,
Yeah, and you can't, you can only recreate the concept. You can't recreate the sound.
Yeah.
And, you could force little ideas into there. You could say, okay, use this little riff, but that riff was something that was spontaneously conceived,
Completely.
You got to come up with your own thing,
Every time it's funny because even AI, Google chat response or whatever, it'll be like, what key and what chord changes are, in Bitches Brew, say Spanish key or something. Mm-hmm. They don't know.
Yeah.
Because is it major or minor? Yes.
Yeah.
And everyone, they kind of get out of it by saying, well, it's a modal piece, right?
Yeah.
Sure. But it's just, that is so cool to me because there's not much else you can say that about other than maybe totally free. But Miles' way of playing free was always interesting to me because it's not Albert Ayler or whatever, it's there's implied structure or something. Like it doesn't, I don't know. Can you help me here? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
And I think a lot of it comes from his personal lyricism on the trumpet, that he played melodically, and the other players did play melodically too. Ornette and Albert Ayler.
Definitely,
but
fantastic.
And he also had he also always had that spirit of, like, I don't know who was it somebody said something like Miles plays like a little boy caught out in the rain who can't get in the back door.
That is awfully well said.
And it's like, you just hear that kind of saudade in his playing, that melancholy, and it's like
elevator to the scaffold. Yeah.
I mean, like, you can kind of almost hear like what Ornette does with Prime Time as being related to Bitches Brew.
Yes,
but there's a big difference, and one of the big differences, aside from Ornette and Miles being such different lead personalities, is back to the drumming and the rhythm of it. Like the Primetime Band is almost like always double time drumming, and the Bitches Brew is almost always this kind of halftime groove,
percolating kind of. Yeah.
It's like, even if the drums are playing something that's moderate, the whole harmonic rhythm of what they're doing is slow. Or like in the places where all the pianos are interweaving, it's like that's kind of fast, but it never has that agitated kind of, jumpy feeling of Ornette, like Prime Time. You know, it's more relaxed and more stable or static. You know, and I think I think it comes back to his melodicism.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's a great point. That's a through line, no matter what was going on.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, it's also 100 years of Coltrane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, Star People is going to do a Coltrane night at Pausa the week before we do the Miles one.
Amazing. You're busy, John.
So yeah, that Friday of the I guess I think it's the 11th. I don't know if that's
Friday
right.
is the 10th.
It's the 10th. Okay, I think that's the day.
It's my birthday. I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah, so we'll do a bunch of Coltrane stuff that day.
Amazing.
You know, it's going to be a slightly different band too, because a lot of the guys who are playing on the Miles thing couldn't make the Coltrane thing, so it'll be a different band. Same name. I use that name of Star People basically for repertory music.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the group started by playing Miles, as you mentioned in your article, and then we've branched out into kind of the sphere around Miles. So that band is dedicated to that, and we have a lot of Coltrane in our repertoire, so we're going to do that, you know.
George Caldwell on that gig, or is he out of town?
I don't think George is on that one, and I can't remember who was on it. I have to look on my calendar. Keeping all the personnel straight for all
all these projects
is kind of, you know, mind-numbing sometimes, but
there's quite a pool to choose from in Buffalo.
There's so many great musicians in Buffalo, you know. I mean, it's been like that forever, but I mean, I just feel fortunate that I'm able to play with these people and be inspired by them and have them play with me so that I can continue to improve and continue to find, like, my voice, you know, search inside and find the things that I want to say with music, you know. Yeah, I mean, Elliot Scazzaro, Griff Kazmerzak, Harry Grazer, Lindsay Holland, Alex MacArthur, Joe Gailey, Paul LaDuca, of course, George Caldwell, Tim Clark, Andy Weinsler, John Hasselbeck, his wife Lisa Hasselbeck, J3, their son. I know I'm leaving some people out. I'm sorry, everybody out there. I love you. I'm just, you know.
But just what you said, what's fascinating to me is that covered several generations of musicians.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that list you just reformed. That is cool and encouraging for the future. You know, you always hear, well, you know, particularly with jazz, like now any human-made music is possibly in trouble. But, you know, you hear forever that jazz is, you know, is dying. I don't see it.
I don't think that and I don't think that human-made music will die.
I don't
because
either.
it's the activity of it. It's not the, you know, we get fixated sometimes. And then again, maybe this goes back to like last night with Lenny White and Rachel and them, you know, and someone came up to me and said, you know, I don't know, you know, I'm not sure. And I was like, it's them doing it.
Yes,
that's
process.
That's what this is about. That's what, you know, it's about watching them do this and experiencing them do this and seeing master musicians deal with a difficult situation. And, you know, I mean, the premise of it was somewhat difficult.
It's risky.
Yeah, it's very risky. I mean, how far do you go? And I was a little concerned when they played the first tune. They played Kid Charlemagne, and the kids knocked Kid Charlemagne out of the park. The kid played Larry Cartland's solo like perfect.
That kid. Yeah, these were kids between the age of 13 and 18, kind of nationally sourced for this project. And they were impressive.
They were great. And then to hear the pros come out, and the first tune was Kid Charlemagne, and the guitar player in that band, he nailed it too, the pro. But they played the tune pretty much straight, you know, other than a little bit of improv from the piano. And I was like, oh, is that what this is going to be? They're just going to play these like rock tunes and then just improvise?
And then it wasn't that.
And then it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And that was cool. it made me think, this is a good idea.
It's a good idea.
It's a really good idea. So you may see that come.
Excellent. Well, to me, I mean, you're taking an Alice in Chains tune, right?
Yeah.
And exploring the harmonic possibilities in it, some of which are suggested in the original. There's interesting vocal harmonies throughout that music. But a lot of it is, chords with no third, heavy,
right,
power chords, etc. That there's variation in that. But to see them like, this is a playground, let's explore what is in here.
Exactly.
Is really cool.
Yeah. There was a couple of those where I could have imagined Rachel Z being, at her piano in her studio at home, probably in her living room, and just like playing and go, oh yeah, that's kind of an interesting, I like where that goes, and getting it from the original, but taking it somewhere else.
I love it, and I mean, some of this I think traces back a few years to some of the work that Robert Glasper was doing initially, particularly when he kind of reharmonized the Radiohead tune, everything in its right place, which in a way has almost become a jazz standard now. Like, I've seen a bunch of people do it.
Yeah.
You mentioned Harry Grazer.
Yeah.
I remember Harry being in our basement when he was in a band with my son at the time, and they were, Harry was in high school, so Declan was definitely young, but they were playing that based off this Glasper thing, and I thought, well, Harry was mind-blowing from the moment I first heard him play.
He's brilliant.
He's
I try
brilliant.
not to let him get on the drums at all.
That, I remember,
although we've been talking,
rehearsing something, the drummer's like, let's go take a break, and all of a sudden Harry gets behind his kit, and this is my buddy Ryan Nogle, amazing drummer.
Yeah.
Fantastic, but he's like, I'm going to punch that kid. Because he's great. Then he picked up a guitar, and he'd never really played guitar, and he was great.
And he sings. He sang background vocals on one of my tunes that hasn't come out yet, but it's all done. And he's the background vocalist on it, singing harmonies.
How cool.
Yeah, but
multiple threat musician. But anyway, that idea of finding, I guess creating the new standards in a way, maybe? I don't know.
Well, and this gets at a question. I teach jazz history of jazz. I've taught it at Villa Maria. I taught it at UB, and I've been teaching it at Fredonia for a bunch of years. And one of the questions that I like to bring up in the beginning is, what is jazz? I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, we're trying to verbalize something which maybe, and there's a whole discussion about the fact that word is was imposed on the music, and that its roots are racist, which I can't argue with that, but it does exist.
Yes.
And we do have a thing today that is jazz, and so when you start to talk about it, you need to say what it is. What are we talking about?
Have some common shared language to describe.
Yeah, it's about language, really.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the class, for the final exam, and I'm giving away the final exam, but it's okay, because it takes work no matter what you say, but is to listen to 3 versions of Smells Like Teen Spirit. In fact, 4 versions. The first is the original, which we could pretty much agree is not jazz.
Yes.
Nirvana.
Yes.
And then 3 subsequent versions: Brad Mehldau, The Bad Plus, and Robert Glasper. Okay, tell me if those are jazz. And if they are jazz, prove it. What do you?
Why? How
and why?
Yeah.
Why are these? And the students always come up with interesting responses to that.
And there's nothing really wrong, is there? There's not really a wrong answer. I mean,
no, there isn't.
It's just a well-argued answer.
It's just Can you argue this? Can you use? And the suggestion is that you use language and ideas from throughout the course, which is talking about swing and structure and rhythm sections and soloing and all the different elements that go into making the music. So it's
This is your design?
What's that?
The courses you're designing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, John.
It's evolved.
Yeah.
You know, Jim
it's jazz. It should.
Jim Kursdorfer handed it off to me at Villa when I was teaching there, and he was still in charge and with us. And back then it was a 2-semester course, which was pretty cool for a 2-year school.
That's great.
To spend 2 semesters on jazz history. And then I had to teach it at UB one time, and it was 1 semester, and that was a challenge because it went from being like an hour and 20 minutes twice a week to, I think it was an hour and a half once a week.
Yeah. It's a lot to get in.
Yeah. And then at Fredonia, it's 3 days a week for 50 minutes, but it's only 1 semester.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you know, again, that's it. That's that bigger picture thing.
Yeah.
It's the macro, right? What are you going to do in an hour that is going to get a point across and that people are going to resonate with, that you're going to, you know, that's going to resonate them, and that's going to set you up to do the next step in your delivery. It's composition.
Yeah.
It's just another form of composition.
Teaching is composition.
Yeah.
That's a great quote. I love it. Well, John, we've got a busy summer, man, and I'm really excited for all of these projects. The Art Park show being a focus. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah. It's definitely a highlight. I mean, I'm doing, you know, my original music group, JBQ, plays every last Sunday of the month. The last Sunday of the month at Duende. 4 to 6. And we usually do 1 long set, and that's all original. Lindsay Holland, Griff Kazmierzak, Elliot Scazzaro, Harry Grazer, Paul LaDuca or Ed Croft, and myself. You know, and then I've got a few different things at Pausa. I've been trying to present different things at Pausa. So I've got a thing with Clay Jenkins and Jeff Campbell and Bob Snyder from Rochester. I've got a thing we're going to do in November, a feature of Greg Millar's music.
Amazing.
A night of all of Greg Millar, just of his music. I think he's got Dalton and trying to think of who the other sax player is. Darn, I can't remember right now. Maybe Matt Incontro. Yeah, anyway, that's going to be cool.
Young.
Yeah. And, you know, still playing with the band I inherited from my dad, the Morgan Street Stompers, on the 2nd Sunday of the month at the Broadway Hotel, 2 to 5 p.m., doing a thing at the AKG with the Buffalo Jazz Collective, Mark Filsinger's group of Duke Ellington tribute, and we're going to be repeating that at the Alcott Jazz Festival on Labor Day weekend.
Are you involved in Lewiston this year?
Playing with Cheryl Ferris. And I'm not sure of the time on that, but it's during the day, probably on the Saturday, I think. Yeah, Cheryl Ferris. Cool. So that's doing that. And Mondays at Gene McCarthy's. That's the Stompers are the 3rd Sunday. The Gene McCarthy's thing is the 2nd Monday of the month. Second Monday. And that's a group, Alex MacArthur usually sings, Elliot on sax, different piano players, Paul LaDuca on bass. And we just do standards. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no rehearsing, there's no charts. It's just free.
Real book tunes?
It's like a real book tune gig, but we don't do anything that anybody has to read. So it's you got to know the tune.
Right.
We only do tunes that everybody knows. And that makes for a really traditional jazz improvisational situation.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You know?
That's one of the things that I'm really happy about with my musical life, is that each of these situations that I'm involved in is something different. It's something unique. And I get to really develop a different part of my musical personality by doing things like that, you know? And so I'm really thankful for that, and for all the musicians who I participate with, and the club owners and presenters who continue to want to, you know, do it, because We get good audiences, but it's, you know, you got to hang in there, man.
You do.
You know,
you do.
Got to hang in there.
Yeah, it takes everybody in this music community to make it happen, you know.
Yeah.
But you still can go out 6 or 7 nights a week and find something worthwhile, you know.
Yeah. Which
is incredible. Well, thank you for taking the time to, you know, share some of your story. There's a lot more, but you know, it seems like that kid that got the downbeat with Tony Williams on the cover has had quite a journey.
Oh man,
to
Jeez.
Now, you know, and with so much more to do.
Yeah, man, Tony Williams. I can't believe he left us at 52, man.
That one.
That
was robbery.
Yeah, I mean, so unfortunate. Just so much music there. I'm happy that Jack DeJohnette lived, you know, a decent long period, but man, that
really worked for a lot of that time.
Yeah, and he was another one. You know, one of my big ones. I would say Tony, Jack, and Elvin, Max Roach, those guys, you know, they were the dudes for me, man.
Yeah,
you know,
it shows. It shows.
Thank you, Jeff.
Man, thank you. And let's do this again. You know, there'll be a lot more to talk about. Everyone, please check out this Art Park show and follow John's, you know, abundant activity on social media. You always post when you have gigs, and I hope to see some of you at a bunch of these. But thanks, John Bacon, man.
You're welcome.
It's a good hang.
You. Yeah.
Thanks for all you do. Playing here, but also, you know, education and educating next generation and mentoring people and, you know, keeping it all alive.
I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to do that.
And we're thankful you're here, man. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Today's episode of Why Music Matters is brought to you by 42 North Brewing Company. 42 North believes in listening locally and drinking locally. If you're out at a live music venue, ask for 42 North. And if you're a venue owner, you might want to think about adding 42 North to your lineup of taps. And maybe I'll see you out there at a gig. If so, maybe I'll buy you a 42 North Borderland or a Day Trekker. First one's on me.